Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Juicy. We're doing our LSU women's basketball NCAA tournament path, who they might possibly play. How deep do we think they'll actually go in this tournament? Here, as we break down all the possible matchups that could come either way here, and talking about LSU baseball, they got a big series against Texas. LSU softball themselves getting you all today with them as they take on Georgia. As you know, they're looking pretty good themselves. Freddie, introduce everybody to Juicy. How you doing today, Juicy?
I'm good, man. How's everything?
It is going very well here at the Fishbowl. So, Juicy, what you think about the tournament draw for LSU women's basketball?
I mean, that's what we all predicted. Like, that's about what happened. Number 3 seed. I mean, they're hosting the PMAC again, so you get the home field advantage. Just ready and excited to see what happens. See if they can make a big run on it, and well, hopefully they'll get pretty far.
Yeah, hopefully so. I think the LSU's got three really good players. You know, Anisha Morrow being a first team All American, Flaw J. Johnson doing her own thing as well here. I mean, they got talent on this team, obviously. And I mean, very making to the NCAA tournament here, taking on San Diego State here, which I think LSU is going to beat San Diego here. The game will be on ESPN if you want to check out the action here. San Diego being 23-9 in the country here. So if you want to take a little bit deeper look here around the eye, look how I would have loved it. Their strength is 138. They didn't really play a very schedule, needs to say here. So looking at quadrant records and all that good stuff here. So with the committee, they had a 2-2 quadrant 2 win, 1-4 in quadrant 3, and 20-3 quadrant 4 win. So they won the Mountain West championship game against Wyoming, 72-6 overtimes, which got them to auto bid into the tournament because they wouldn't have made it if they wouldn't have won that championship game in the first place here. So, and they got a tough draw. Like, I mean, for them playing against LSU, ranked number 10 in the country, it's always gonna be tough for them here. So, if you look at it here, I'm gonna pull up the whole NCAA Division One women's tournament. Just
Interesting.
kind of give you.
Another interesting note is they have a late game at 10:15 for LSU. That's pretty late.
But I mean, all these games are like going to try to get this thing in at a. I got the men's tournament underway as well right now. I mean, they're kind of starting that out here. So if
San
you
Diego
look
State,
at,
I see, hasn't even played a top 25 team.
yeah. So I mean, LSU definitely has played a tougher road basically here. If you're looking at top 25 games and stuff here, so that is something to look at here and something to see as we go deeper into the season. I mean, not deeper in the season, deeper into this tournament here. So let me pull it up here real quick so y'all can get an idea of what I'm talking about here.
I mean, this is not to say that this is not a knock against San Diego State. I mean, anything can happen. We know. We've seen tournaments. I mean,
all right, Juicy, you see my bracket that I pulled up here?
yeah, I got CBS's bracket pulled up, but it's still
Okay. So this is coming from the official NCAA website here. LSU is paired with Florida State and George Mason here. So, and that is paired with Michigan State right here, Harvard, NC State, and Vermont here. So, assuming LSU wins on Saturday to knock out San Diego State in the tournament, they'll probably, if I had to pick out a 6-11 matchup, you could see that 11 pull off an upset against a 6. But based on what I'm thinking here, I think Florida State will get it over them there. I think that's the way it's going to go here. These are the first four. Okay. These teams have yet to be spotted. Southern's playing tomorrow against UC San Diego. I guess go Jags, man. Like, gotta support the Louisiana teams, huh? Baton
Yeah,
Rouge
you
is
love to see.
this tournament.
You love to see it. Hope Southern can get that first four win and they can
Get
get
in the
in there.
tournament, which I think they'll
It's
end up.
happened before. It's happened before. A 16 seed has beat a 1 seed in the tournament. I think it's happened once in the women's. I know it's happened
I don't know where
once in the
these.
men's
I
too.
don't know where these line up at. It's kind of a good question because there's four games, but I'm only seeing two. There's okay, Michigan's right here. Michigan, they got Texas right there. I'm trying to see where they plotted them at. West Virginia, then UCLA. Okay, so I guess sake of I guess Southern and UC San Diego would go to I guess the Birmingham side of it, regional.
To UCLA.
Oh yeah, UCLA because they're 16 seeds, but they have enough. They have two 16 seeds. They have the High Point, William and Mary, and then they have Columbia and Washington, Iowa State, and Princeton. That's the 11s. So I don't really know where they would like. They got Texas right there, and that could be one of them, or it could be the other side. I guess it just depends on who wins. I guess
Well, I hope
out of these two.
Southern gets their win so they can have a chance to pull off an unthinkable upset.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Or look, Arkansas State representing the Sun Belt right there, going against the number 2 UConn. So we're gonna see here. So you got LSU beating San Diego State, Juicy.
Yeah, I haven't beaten San Diego State for
And
sure. I'll wait
then you
to hold my prediction for the one after this until next week.
322. I don't. When did these play? Let's see. Second round. I don't know when they're. What I wonder what week that would be. I know it'd be like next week, but like
The 22nd, I think, is this weekend, so we would be able to make our picks next week for the second round.
yeah, if we do it early enough in the week, but just in case we don't, I do think LSU would either beat Florida State or George Mason is what I'm thinking. Florida State just kind of looking at other teams here. Let me I'm gonna copy this real quick here. And then open that tab if you want to
But at
look
least
at
Florida State's played top 25 teams this year.
yeah, they do look like they are a little bit better off than you know, but you can throw out all
The
those
points
resumes. They
points
still
per game against George Mason is.
wait, George Mason.
I clicked on their the matchup info just to see what they compare to, and I happened to see like they score like 14 more points per game than George Mason does. So let me see how many points LSU scoring in games. Yeah, LSU and Florida State are much tighter in points per game.
Yeah. Uh, their net record in quadrant one is 3-6 for Florida State. They have a 55th tough visual here. They lost to Tennessee in December, but these teams changed so much. They lost to Duke and they beat Notre Dame. They beat a top 10 team right there. Uh, North Carolina, yeah, 56-60. Beat North Carolina earlier in the season. This could swing either way. I mean, they did beat Florida. I'm looking at common opponents and see how well they played against the SEC here. But I think that's only two that I see, Florida. And whereas if you look at LSU, they beat trying to see, they beat Tennessee, they beat Florida, they beat Tennessee twice. So I mean in Florida twice as well. So it's looking better for LSU. All LSU's losses this season. If you look at them, uh, I mean, they've all been to top 25. So that is something that looks really good here. Now, if they don't play like at Alabama and Ole Miss, those games toward the end there when they were starting to do that slide here, that's the one thing that I'm kind of worried about here. Hopefully, they don't have like any rust because it's going to be 10, almost, it's going to be 14 days since the last time Tigers played. So it's going to be real tough on them basically in this tournament based on the fact that you're going to have this little area right here be your top matchup here, like just trying to get ready for all that going on there and just looking at it here. Because if you look at this here in that bracket, you're gonna have you're gonna have a lot to do right here. This little area right there is gonna be real tough on you regardless. Just trying to get through there and then taking on Florida State here. LSU's had a tougher road than Florida State this year though, but they're more comparable than the George Mason and San Diego State of the world here. So I do think LSU does make it to the past the round of 32 and go to the Sweet 16 in that scenario. Even it wouldn't matter if they play Florida State or George Mason. I still think they make it to the Sweet 16. What do you think, Juicy?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sweet 16's good. Then after that, it starts to get a little bit more
It does get murky at that point there because
tighter
now you
after
got to try to
that.
figure out who you think's going to make it out of that 7, 10, 2, and 15 range right here.
Which I'll even take a Sweet 16. Honestly, I wouldn't even consider it a failing season compared to what it was before Kim Mulkey got there. This is
Yeah,
all better than what it was. I'll take a Sweet 16 too. I ain't gonna
won
be
a
mad.
national championship in your second year is always a good sign. And then last year, I think they made it to the Elite Eight, I
Elite
think.
Eight. I wouldn't be mad if they just lost in the Sweet 16. I'd still say it's going way better than what it was before she got there.
Yeah, I think Sweet 16 might be around the range. I do think they'll make it to the Elite Eight again this year. It's just going to depend on what team shows up in this tournament here. But I think that it'll probably be NC State. If I had to take out those four, I say NC State. They might not make it past NC State, but uh, just if I was a betting man, I had to put money. But this is March Madness. You have no idea who you're going to be going against. It's going to be tough on how you actually look because there there could be so many possibilities of how this stuff's actually going to break down here. NC State's been a very good basketball club this year. They have been very solid from the tip off of the season, and they kind of they found their way. They got you get in a number two seed, you really have done some really good things on the floor for sure. So this year, I mean, they have an RPI of 76 and 62 in the here. It's a strength net ranking here, 8-1, right? Comparing them to LSU's resume, they're very comparable. Like because they won quadrant one games and LSU has 5 in quadrant one, 17th year. I would not be surprised if NC State were to knock off LSU here because they're that good. Like I think they could do a lot of good work here. Like they start off that season number 2 South Carolina, number 6 TCU. They dropped both those games here. They played LSU. They ended up losing to LSU. So they have played each other before here in the early part here. LSU can beat NC State. I wouldn't be surprised if NC State beat them though. Either here. They've gotten better, like definitely when the season came on here. They beat Notre Dame. They've beaten Duke. Top 10 teams. North Carolina was a loss for them as well. They beat them in the ACC tournament. And they lost to Duke in the ACC championship game there. So that they did make it to their conference championship game. That's something to see what happens against Vermont when NC State does play them. But if I'm looking at it from that perspective here, I think NC State does beat Vermont. I think they would either beat the winner out of Michigan State and Howard. I think those two games there, you look at them both, and I think you're going to be in that situation where you're going to have to LSU's going to either have to beat NC State to get to that next round in the Elite Eight here because they're going to definitely be on a collision course. If they were to get past that, you're looking at possibly playing UCLA. Uh, Ole Miss is in there, Ball State, Baylor, Grand Canyon, Richmond, and Georgia Tech. UCLA looks like they could potentially win it all, and South Carolina as well on the opposite end of that bracket there. But uh, I, I think minimum LSU makes it to the Sweet 16. I don't know if they'll make it out of there against a NC State team that I think that they will be running into when you start breaking down this bracket here. But that's where I see LSU ending up at the Sweet 16 with a loss. Loss or I think highest they'll go is Elite Eight. I don't think they go any lower than Sweet 16. What you think of Juicy?
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's fair. I mean, there's always like, I mean, it's definitely uh it's definitely not out the realm that they could get to the Final Four, though. I mean, they can go on a run and get a little bit deeper. It really just depends on the matchup and what team shows up. But I mean, they definitely can get to the Final Four for sure. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that is something we're going to have to wait and see as it comes along here. So I'm going to turn off this and bring us back on cam. Oh, wait. I hit this button twice. Okay. So, yeah, just trying to see, bring that back on cam here. So, just looking at it here, I think I'm gonna go with who. That's a tough one. I think give me, like I said, minimum Sweet 16. I think to Elite Eight. But if I really have to go like which way I want to like dive, make a decision about the pace out of the two, I'm thinking I'm gonna go with Sweet 16. I'm gonna go to lower because I just don't know. Uh, I think Anisha's dealing with a little bit of an injury. Morrow. Um, what Kim Mulkey says that she'd be ready to go by tournament time, and that was 2 weeks ago or whatever. But like I said, I don't trust coaches. I do not trust coaches whenever they make comments about players' health and stuff because that could be anything. There, they're like politicians, coaches. That's straight up. That's what it is.
I guess that's one way to put it.
Yeah, they're like a politician. That's like gonna lie straight to your face, and not even feel no remorse about it anyway. Just get the vote to them.
Not my coach. No way she'll lie.
Hey, it's a little bit of a strategy, bro. That's all I'm saying. Like coach talk is definitely strategy. Speaking of a big series here, LSU baseball taking on Texas. What you think of Juicy top 10 Texas coming in, going to defend their home turf against the Tigers?
Oh, it's gonna be real fun series to watch for sure. I mean, we'll see if LSU's if outside of Kate Anderson, if Ianson can step up and go further, which he did start off hot for the about first four and third inning. Then the wheels kind of fell off, though. Could have stayed in longer. LSU's batting with a 341 batting average as a team, so we'll see if they can bring the bats to Austin with them. Um, can't wait to see this matchup, though. We always thought we all Texas seems to be at times they you find they like overrated as the years go on. I know LSU struggles against formerly Big 12 teams or like when they used to go play uh, that series in Houston with the Big 12 teams with Baylor and Oklahoma at the time. LSU always just seemed to struggle, so we'll see what happens. It always ends up being a duel, a pitcher's duel every time LSU plays one of these schools like this. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with all that there. I do think that LSU. Like, here's my thing though. LSU baseball hasn't played anybody yet. That's my concern with this team. They look really good. I you look at the plays they're making, but the schedule hasn't really been difficult to navigate up to this point here. I mean, their toughest team they played was against Missouri. Basically, I feel like I could be wrong. Um,
Well, they did beat Dallas
Maybe
Baptist
Kansas
one
State.
game.
Yeah, but that's like I said, midweek game. I don't really buy it too much there. They did beat Dallas Baptist and Kansas State are probably your two biggest wins of the year so far. Uh, Texas coming in 3-game series. Now, granted, if you look at Texas' record, yeah, they're 11. They're one played. Uh, their schedule here is then SEC realm of things here. Texas has done a very against them here. LSU, they've had kind of a. I don't want to like sound like I'm down LSU, but I kind of am. Just like that they haven't like their strength schedule is 256, non-conference 274, very weak. They beat UNO tonight 11-1. So I mean, like, but they're not. They haven't played anybody tough. We're gonna start to see how good LSU is starting this weekend. They got Texas, then they played Louisiana, then they got Mississippi State for 3 games. Louisiana Tech, the number 9, Oklahoma. Midweek game against Nichols, the number 16, Auburn. Midweek, McNeese, 12, Alabama, Northwestern State. And you got that big series against number 1, Tennessee. Then you kind of like finish it on the like a downward slope of the SEC, aside from Arkansas toward the end there. But I think this Texas series is going to be an eye-opening series for both these year. Texas has played a little bit tougher schedule. How good both these ball clubs are yet, and I mean you're about a month into the thing here, but really about to find out what these teams are made of here up until this point here. Now, the teams that have played a tougher schedule, they're going to be the ones that you should be looking out for because they're battle tested. That's just the way it's going to be, and you just got to be ready for it whenever it comes down to it here. LSU looks like they got a deep bullpen, but we'll see whenever they go play Texas here. But um, I do like LSU. I think they're a little more flashier than Texas. I do think they have the ball skills to handle it. I take 2 or 3 against Texas. What do you think, Juicy?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think LSU will end up taking this series 2 out of 3 as well. I doubt they'll sweep this time around. Um, but this series can almost go either way. But I'm of course I'm gonna give it to LSU. When in doubt, just go with the flashier team.
Macy Bergeron had a day on Sunday against Kentucky. She hit 2 home runs, 5 RBI. She was all over the place here,
Yeah, I
and
think it was all weekend. She was got heard her name all and her
yeah,
and Sydney Bergeron.
yeah. Then they're going on the road to take on at Georgia here, number 13 in the country here. They took care of business against Kentucky, swept them. They have went through basically everybody this year. Even got a win against number 5 UCLA. Only have 1 loss so far this year. They played
Yeah,
top
yeah. I
25
mean,
teams.
Beth Torina's got. I'm impressed. She's got a heck of a ball club. You know.
This is probably the most talented team that she's ever had at LSU, and that's saying a lot right there. I think that's a very good question. You know, I think
Oh
that
yeah,
is something to go see here. I think this is her most talented ball club that she's had at LSU softball. I think that's just the way it is.
there's no doubt they look like the best team in the country right now.
Yeah, if you look at LSU softball, I mean Georgia, they got a pretty good ball club, 21-6 so far this year. Looking at Georgia's strength of schedule here, RPI, I'm looking at the live up here, 16, 15, 16 quadrant one record, which is basically ranking 1 through 25 ranks here. So, they Georgia's, they had a tough series against Tennessee. They dropped 2 or 3 at home to play against South Carolina. Dropped 2 of those 3 as well here. They've been able to win on. They got a win against Tennessee on this a Saturday matchup, and then South Carolina was on that Friday there. but they both played them on the road, so they're going to get a SEC home series against LSU. So we'll see how Georgia handles their home field against LSU there. But I do think that I team is that going to I think they get out of the Super Zero end up going deeper than they did last. I think did you see? I think two out of three against Georgia will be very good entering against a matchup against the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana right there. So
I'm a I'm gonna go out on a limb, which I guess it ain't too big of a limb. I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say that they'll just sweep Georgia. Honestly, I mean they swept Kentucky. I think they'll blow through Georgia too.
Georgia, okay, you think that sweep would be a very tough thing to do. I mean, it's tough to do against a top 25 opponent anyway. And what it's going to be interesting to see how the SEC is going to play out this year because of you got Texas and you have Oklahoma in this mix as well in the SEC this year. So, and we know Oklahoma's a dynasty. That's just the word to describe Oklahoma. And both those teams will probably be in OKC. I would say Texas and Oklahoma. Looking at the conferences in general here, you got Texas A&M that LSU's got to play here. LSU's softball is going to go through a gauntlet between let's see, schedule here, and you got A&M April 11th, and then you ended up with Texas April 19th. In that gap there, you're going to have number 6 and number 2 right there, right, and then you got Florida. Basically, actually, let me widen this range out here. April 11th through April 28th, you have 3 series right there against 3 of the top 6 teams in the country right now sitting. That could change. One of these teams might go in a slide or whatever, but I don't see that happening here. I I think LSU gets 2 or 3 against Georgia just to play it safe. Obviously, best bet would be a sweep, but just to take it conservative, I'll say 2 or 3 against Georgia, and they'll probably end up. I think they'll beat the Raging Cajuns, and I think
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina. Looking ahead here, I think LSU will probably win that series too. It's gonna start getting dicey when we start getting in April and stuff. How this all shakes out here, and how seeding for the NCAA when we start really talking about RPIs and NCAA tournament berths and regional hosts, super regional hosts, that all that lingo is gonna happen in April there, Juicy. What you think? Do you think this LSU softball team's good enough to make it to Oklahoma City this year, Juicy?
Oh, absolutely. With the talent with Macy Bergeron really coming around this year, Sydney Bergeron, Sydney, what's her last name? Uh, can't think of her name, but I mean they've got bats for sure. I mean,
You
it's
got
really
Danica
I
Coffee too,
really
man.
haven't seen
You can't forget
really
about Coffee.
yeah her forgot about her. Like they got bats, they got pitching. Like honestly, they have it they have it going on both sides of the ball this year.
Yeah, that's just gonna be the way it is. That's gonna be
But a lot
this
of
is gonna
but a lot of these players have been there for like 3 or 4 years now, so they've got a lot. They've so honestly, this is a real experienced team that Beth Arena has too, though.
yeah, it's gonna be a good year for SEC softball because you're gonna have like I'm looking at there, LSU does avoid Oklahoma. That was one thing we talked about like 2 weeks ago. Uh, that they do avoid Oklahoma, which is a good a good sign of anything here. If you're just just on the history and stuff and with that program, them in SEC play. If you can win SEC title, you probably run into them. I don't think that you just gonna go through the tournament and not beat them here. Oklahoma, you almost have to expect to beat them based on what they have done and the respect you got to give that program after what they've done through all those years. It's until they're the champ until somebody beats them. That's just the way it is in this business and softball is. So we will see what will happen with all that. Get closer. Speaking of, it's kind of we'll look at Oklahoma and see where they play Texas. I'm trying to remember what. Yeah, they're 26-0 and 6-0 in conference. So there you go. Sums it up right there. Let's see. They played Texas on April 25th, but they got a gauntlet there too. April 25th through May 3rd. They're playing number 2 Texas and number 3 Florida to look at for Oklahoma. Like their last series, they're on the. It's going to stay unbeaten. Basically, that's kind of what I'm getting.
Yeah, it won't be easy anywhere in softball for SEC players.
Do you think Beth Torina's talented LSU that she's had since she's
I think so, talented, but much more along the lines of experience too. Though we we never give her enough credit, especially me. I know I've been hard on her, saying that she needs to go and whatever, but she's really built up a roster here though that she has this year. This has to be, she has to at least win some games in OKC though.
yeah, I think it's good enough there. So any closing thoughts you have, Juicy? Here, let me pull up the closing thoughts little banner here. Let's see what we got here. Any closing thoughts?
Um, I was saying before the show, just want to give a shout out to congrats to John Melvin, a school that we covered a little bit. They're
We
they're
did.
playing their first Division 1 opponent tomorrow in baseball. McNeese and Lake Charles.
Round of applause for John Melvin, a college in Crowley, Louisiana. So look, we talked to their athletic director, Mr. Musgraves, been a very good friend to the pod here. We'll have to get him back on the pod, you see if we need to talk to him a little bit more, just to kind of like just get
See,
an
maybe
update
there'll be a
of where he's
trend to
going.
start playing some of these Division 1 schools. It'd be interesting if they're trying to get their name in that hat.
Well, it's kind of it's hard to build a program from scratch here. We talked to him about the challenges and stuff here. We do have that episode up on our YouTube channel and Facebook, all that good stuff there. We have all our stuff kind of archived. So if you want to know how that interview went, we did that just before we went into this. I went into this studio over here. Um, yeah, it was kind of like the older setup here. I don't think I even had this camera here. It's so much more crystal clear than my other camera I had. But yeah, like that's kind of the way it is, and we didn't really do the show this kind of way. This is kind of more live and kind of interacting with everybody compared to that one. We might do taped just to kind of like it's easier to like get an interview and just like kind of just do it that kind of way here. Just kind of keeping up in a 2025 update. Maybe we might do that in the future. Wouldn't that be something, huh,
Mm-hmm.
Juice?
That would be.
All right. Thank y'all for tuning in here to the Fishbowl Sports Radio. Hope you have a great and wonderful day. We'll see you here next time on the Fishbowl Radio. Have a good night, Fishbowl Nation.
Good night.